evening. So we start part 1, the Issei. Chapter 1, Immigration from 1860 to 1924. Let me fix that. Immigrants from Japan were different from immigrants from Europe. Japanese women can only leave Japan and enter the United States if and only if she already had a husband living in the United States. An immigrant man went to Japan to marry her specifically, or she was a picture bride, meaning the man mailed a picture of himself, she mailed a picture of herself, and they accepted each other's marriage proposal. She was discriminated against based on her race and gender. As a result, she took whatever options were available to her and struggled to fulfill her destiny. She devoted her entire life to her children. They subordinated their needs and wants for the children and family. She worked to get food, shoes, and education for her children. When things got really tough, she perceived her life as ordained. When things got particularly tough, she said it can't be helped. Her survival and success depending on her striving even harder. She found meaning in the very process of that struggle. The early arrivals, 1868 to 1908. 1900 census, there were 27,440 total Japanese immigrants. Of these, only 1,000 were women, and some were underage. For example, 1871, a girl named Ito died at age 19 years. She was a nursemaid to the Schnell family. John Henry Schnell headed the colony of farmers and political refugees who were loyal to Lord Matsudaira but were crushed in their power struggle against the emperor. There were 4 women in that group. 2 years after the colony was founded, it fell. Schnell left the colony with his wife and children. The others either returned to Japan or went off to seek life elsewhere in the United States. Ito and the samurai found work by a family run by Francis Freer Camp. Ito passed away soon after. Prostitutes. During the 1880s, they were equally marked by adversity. Their fathers were impoverished farmers. They were expected to do domestic work in the United States. Men, called procurers or agents, brought them over with the promise of high wages in America. Once here, they were sold into prostitution. They lived a life of pathos. They were exploited by the men who brought them into the country, and they were shunned by their own community. The American press used them as their favorite target so that people know that they are immoral. A Japanese official also echoed this sentiment. Only one, Waka, escaped after several failed attempts and returned to Japan. In Japan, she taught herself how to write, and she became a noted critic. Her life was made into a television film, Ameyuki-san. This prostitution ring was lucrative because single men outnumbered women. Even with the introduction of picture brides in 1908, they stayed in business. Prototype. Kushida founded the Women's Children's Christian Temperance Union in Japan. In 1892, she went to the United States because she was promised a scholarship at the age of 23 years. When she arrived, the scholarship failed to materialize. She was forced to work as a domestic in San Francisco. After she met Togasaki, they got married, formed a partnership of lifelong service to the community. They paid it forward. They were advocates to other newly arrived immigrants. They did whatever they needed to do to help them out. She did whatever she had to do for their 8 children. 3 of them became doctors, 3 became nurses. Their sons were the first to enter that profession. Their daughters were among the few that entered that profession. In 1908-1920, the union between men and the picture brides formed the bedrock for Japanese Americans to establish themselves and thrive. Most Japanese Americans trace their ancestry to a picture bride. This phenomenon arose from the external realities of the Issei as well as Japanese cultural practices. Issei men originally planned to be wealthy, then returned to Japan. However, when it became reality that this won't happen overnight, they sent for picture brides to start families of their own. In Japan, marriages are a family affair. Matchmakers put the man's name and woman's name together. The woman's name is placed in the man's family registry to formalize the marriage. So why did this woman accept the role? Takaya wrote her answers in a journal. Become rich, curiosity of a new country, fear of mother-in-law in Japan, anxiety about being past the marriage age, dreams of an idyllic romantic life, lack of ability to support herself, sacrificing herself to obey her parents' wishes. Disillusionment and trials. These women were shocked when they came to the United States. The photographs of the men did not resemble the man they actually married. Men also exaggerated their talents and circumstances. For example, the, quote, owner of a large store, end quote, actually ran a small fruit stand. A newly arrived picture bride put a corset on top of her western dress. A man gave us raw steak and told his wife it's American sashimi. Once in the United States, these women faced backbreaking labor, poverty, and loneliness. Their, air quotes, luxurious home was actually a two-room shack with a dirt floor, one wood stove, one bed, and one table. Their culture shock was also severe. They were forced to adapt to an alien language, food, and clothing. Most never learned English. Even when they did learn some English, they were pulled off by the American way of being blunt and direct. The Japanese way is to be deferential and group-oriented. Good neighbors. Orite, though, did report quite a number of times when her white neighbors were good to them. For example, Ito bartered trout and venison for some vegetables. Takaya's neighbor taught her how to bake bread, beans, and tortillas in Colorado. Desertions. Some women could not get past their disappointment and left their husband. The husbands put an ad in local paper about their missing wives. Some of these women were sent back to Japan or placed in a church-run women's shelter. This unwanted publicity was used by the men to exert social control over their wives. The husbands. The men's hands were tied as well. They had to get married. They were forced into common labor with the lowest wages. Their pride would not allow them to admit failure, so they had to stay. Most of them were already 29 to 45 years old, well past the marriage age at that time. Also, there was anti-miscegenation laws against interracial marriage in the United States, so they had to look to Japan for a wife. Also, a wife would give them much needed labor in the form of a housewife and additional income for the growing family. Men also had complaints about their picture brides. The photo that they got of their future wife also looked different from the woman who actually showed up. One example they gave, one man got married in Japan. After the baby died, he went to San Francisco, promised his wife that he'll pick her up later. When he finally returned to Japan several years later, he learned that she already divorced him, married somebody else. And after 3 failed picture bride attempts, the woman who became his second wife admitted to having a child out of wedlock. Moreover, he was forced to accept her because there was no one else who would marry him. So the mood of come on, be patient, and persevere no matter what underscored their outlook. End of immigration. Japanese immigrant women did not know about the racial discrimination of this country. In February 1905, the San Francisco Chronicle had a headline that said Japanese are invading their country. It is the problem of the hour. Workers from Asia bring crime and poverty to this country. Japanese American children went to segregated schools. This is San Francisco back in 1906. President Theodore Roosevelt signed an executive order to end all immigration through Hawaii, Canada, and Mexico. That's 1907. That same year, the Gentleman's Agreement sent the message that Japanese are not wanted. U.S. Immigration Act of 1924. Total Japanese immigrants by that time, 24,125. Women, 30% of that number. That's only 0.10% of the entire population of the United States. So this is proof of racial bias. The media looked as though picture brides were actually coming to the United States for work. The media also made it look like there was a population boom that resulted from these marriages. Since immigrant parents could not own land, they were putting the land under their children's names since they were natural-born citizens. Senator Phelan based his 1920 re-election campaign to keep California white. He called the practice of picture brides as uncivilized, without regard to love or morality. In response, the Japanese government did their part by not issuing any more passports. In 1924, this act ended all immigration from Japan until after World War II. So in a couple of days, I will go over the next chapter. Questions, comments, constructive criticisms, ask for clarification, and I shall see you in a couple of days. Take care.